Welcome to the classic Storytime for kids. I'm delighted to share today's story, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Let's embark on this enchanting adventure. Once upon a time, in a faraway kingdom, there lived a beautiful princess named Snow White. She had skin as white as snow, lips as red as roses, and hair as black as ebony. Snow White lived with her wicked stepmother, the queen, who was very jealous of her beauty. Every day, the queen would ask her magical mirror, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all?" And every day, the mirror would reply, "You, my queen, are fair, it's true. But Snow White is even fairer than you." This made the queen very angry. The queen decided she couldn't let Snow White live any longer. So, she called for a huntsman and ordered him to take Snow White deep into the forest and make sure she would never return. But when the huntsman took Snow White into the woods, he couldn't bring himself to hurt her. She was so kind and gentle that he felt sorry for her. So instead, he told her to run away and never come back. Snow White ran through the forest, scared and alone, until she came upon a little cottage. Inside, it was cozy and welcoming. She saw 7 tiny beds and thought, "Maybe I can rest here for a while." Feeling tired, she laid down on one of the beds and soon fell asleep. Not long after, the 7 dwarfs came home from mining in the mountains. They were surprised to find their cottage door open and a beautiful girl sleeping in one of their beds. The dwarfs, named Doc, Grumpy, Happy, Sleepy, Bashful, Sneezy, and Dopey, were amazed. They gently woke her up, and Snow White told them her story. The dwarfs felt sorry for her and invited her to stay with them. "You can live here, and we will protect you," they promised. Snow White was so grateful. She cooked and cleaned for the dwarfs, and in return, they looked after her, keeping her safe and happy. But the wicked queen soon discovered that Snow White was still alive. She was furious. Determined to find her, she disguised herself as an old peddler woman and set out to the cottage. When the queen arrived, she knocked on the door and offered Snow White a beautiful, shiny apple. "Taste this delicious fruit, dearie," she said with a crooked smile. Snow White was hesitant, but the apple looked so tempting. She took a bite, and suddenly she collapsed to the ground. The queen cackled with glee. When the dwarfs returned home, they were heartbroken to find Snow White lying still. They tried everything to wake her up, but nothing worked. In their grief, they built a glass coffin for her and placed it in the forest, hoping that one day, someone would come to help her. One day, a handsome prince came riding through the forest. When he saw Snow White in the coffin, he was captivated by her beauty. He bent down to kiss her gently, and suddenly, the spell was broken. Snow White opened her eyes and smiled. The dwarfs rejoiced, and the prince and Snow White were filled with happiness. They knew they were meant to be together. Together, they invited everyone to the castle for a grand celebration. As for the wicked queen, she was never seen again. Snow White and the prince lived happily ever after, and the dwarfs became the best of friends with the royal couple. And that's the enchanting story of Snow White and the 7 dwarfs. Remember, kindness and bravery can overcome even the darkest of spells.